Good morning. My name is Sujata Modi Kamnar, and I'm the president of the Tustin Public Schools Foundation. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the 7th annual State of the Schools Breakfast. We are excited to be here at the beautiful Foothill High School Event Center. Thank you to the staff and students of Foothill High School for having us and for all of your help. Thank you also to Foothill students for letting us do your part of this. I hope you enjoyed being greeted by friendly members of the ASB and enjoyed the music of the orchestra under the direction of Tim Thomas. Weren't they amazing? And please do not forget to smile because you are being filmed by the children of Foothill TV. Where are you, Foothill TV? Thank you, Foothill, for all of your help. We are very fortunate to have several Eagle Scouts in our community. Today we are honored to have Foothill High School student and Eagle Scout Andrew Schmidt with us. Andrew, will you please join me on stage to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please rise. Put your right hand over your heart and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Andrew. The reason we hold this breakfast is to bring the community together to share the exciting things happening in TUSD schools. Today, we have some special community members with us. First, please welcome members of the Tustin Unified District Board of Education, Vice President James Laird, Clerk Francine Cinto, and members Jonathan Avila and Lynn Davis. We also welcome distinguished guests from the city of Tustin. Mayor Al Murray, Mayor Pro Tem Becky Gomez, who is also a trustee for the Orange County Department of Education, Council members Alan Bernstein, Letitia Clark, and Chuck Bucket. We also have with us Tustin Police Chief Charlie Solano. Chief Solano will be retiring this November after 27 years of amazing service. Can we please give Chief Solano an extra round of applause? And from Irvine Valley College, President Dr. Glenn Rothmore. Thank you all for being here today. This breakfast would not be possible without the support of our sponsors listed in your program. I'd like to take a moment to recognize our title sponsors. Sharon Cable is here representing Enderley Center. The Enderley Center is a long-time consistent supporter of TPSF. We appreciate your involvement in our programs and your friendship. Thank you. I also want to thank the Tustin Auto Center. They're holding a campaign for the whole month of October where they would donate a portion of every new and used sale. Now is your excuse to go get a new car. I mean, right after this event. We have John Patterson, president of the Tustin Auto Center, here with us today. Thank you, John, for your support for our schools. Many community members also stepped up to make today possible. Please take a look at your program to see all of our sponsors for today. Would all of today's sponsors please stand? Me in showing our thanks to all of these generous community members. After welcome. The Tustin Public Schools Foundation, also known as TPSF, is a nonprofit partner to the Tustin Unified School District. TPSF plays a role in both operating programs for students and funding programs and projects that encompass a broad spectrum. From music to after-school sports to college preparation for summer programs, to name just a few. Leading our organization is a group of dedicated volunteers that make up our board of directors. I'd like my fellow TPSF board members and team, including our amazing executive director, Carol Burby-Garrett, to please stand. If anyone is in search of new friends, these guys are the absolute best. Thank you, TPSF, for all you do. I'm so glad that we have Diane also with us today. TUSD is dedicating the Hughes Activity Center on October 2nd at 3:30 p.m. We are grateful that tomorrow's kids will see Jerry's name every time they pass through those doors. We love you, Diane. In order to do even more for tomorrow's TUSD students, we have established an endowment to help us continue to grow and to ensure our longevity. What's special about our endowment is that we only use the interest, so our endowment will live on forever. I want to give a heartfelt thanks to those who have donated to our endowment and are wearing our TPSF star pin. Would you please stand if you have made a gift to our endowment? Before I leave the stage, I have one more introduction to make. It's now my pleasure to welcome an example of excellence in the Tustin Unified School District, the award-winning Foothill Magical Singers under the direction of Chelsea Dane.
Thank you, Foothill Vandals, for that wonderful, excellent performance. Good morning, all. My name is James Laird. I'm the Vice President of the school board this year. And one of the jobs of our superintendent is he has to answer a lot of questions by board members. They ask all sorts of questions. Some are good, some are bad, but there are a lot of them. But I'm going to go easy on Dr. Franklin this morning. I'm going to only ask him one question this morning. I'm going to be asking him, how's that USC football season going this year? And I can see the people that weren't laughing, all those UCLA fans. So I was up at, or speaking of a USC rival, I was up at Stanford University this weekend, and I was attending an educational conference. And I was with many TUSD people, including our deputy superintendent of instruction, Kathy Nielsen, Principals John Tulin from Tustin, Donnie Rafter from Beckman, Michelle England, AP from Foothill, and Jeff Bonds, Counselor Foothill, among others. And during the breakout sessions, oh, by the way, Stanford, if you've been up there, it's just beautiful. When I was taken aback, I hadn't been up there in about 10 years. But during breakout sessions, they allowed us, or they pulled us out, and we went into actual classrooms. We went into the classrooms and got lectures, and we got taught things. And so I now have gotten something that I've always wanted. I've always wanted to say when I'm mingling at a coffee shop or I'm at a happy hour, say, oh yeah, that reminds me when I was studying at Stanford. So without further ado now, let's talk about Dr. Franklin. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce our own superintendent of this wonderful district, Greg Franklin, who is an educator of the highest caliber, who is so excellently fosters a durable partnership between our schools and our dynamic and involved community. So come on aboard. Let's get to it, Dr. Franklin.
Good morning, Tustin. What a great morning. These events always feel sort of like homecoming, where people come from every corner of the district, from classroom teachers to TPSF members, board members, community, business owners. We really appreciate everybody joining together in one place to celebrate the great things happening in Tustin Unified School District. I want to thank TPSF. They're a phenomenal organization. Sujata's presidency is off to a terrific start, and we expect great things from them continuing on into the future. I want to make another little introduction. It's really special for me to have my mother, Donna Franklin, here. And our youngest daughter is in town. She's in dental school, but she had the weekend off, so she came home. Isn't that nice? Sarah Franklin. And of course, I get to stand up here and say the wonderful things that are going on in Tustin Unified, but really we have 2,500 employees who do phenomenal work every single day, make so many decisions that are helping to propel us forward. If you're an employee of the Tustin Unified School District, principal, cabinet, teachers, classified staff, would you please stand and let us recognize you? So we're going to talk about thriving today. Make sure I hit the right button. We didn't practice this, David. There it goes. So most of you know that we have a pledge that we created several years ago, and we recite it when somebody gets hired in the district. We recite it when people get promoted. We recite it when people come together. Because it's important that all the great professions in the world have a pledge or an oath that they take. We think that teaching ought to be right there among the highest of them. And a part of that pledge is, I pledge to be part of a creative, forward-thinking team dedicated to preparing students to thrive now and in the future. So today's presentation We're going to talk a little bit about what that means. Academic preparation, social, emotional preparation and support, and then the facilities and tools that it takes for excellence. And so we're going to dive right in and start talking about some of the wonderful things that are happening. Number one, our classrooms are not what they used to be. When you walk into a TUSD classroom now, remember your high school days, at least my high school days, we sat in rows and desks that were immovable, everybody facing forward to watch the teacher work, right? There's a joke about a space alien, and he goes back to report to the mothership, and he said, "What did you find out?" He said, "Well, school's a place where kids go to watch adults work." And we've changed that. This is a classroom at Beckman High School. Some of the things you notice, kids are talking together, technology's out on the tables, the furniture is movable. They're in these groups right now, but in 10 minutes they could be in different groups because the furniture is so flexible. And what you'll find out is Google Classroom has changed the way we teach as well. And the special thing about a Google document, as you probably know, is multiple people can work on a Google document simultaneously and see the changes that the other parties are making. In Tustin Unified, in the last 6 months, we've created 2.3 million Google documents. 80% of those have been shared with multiple users. So not only are kids participating and collaborating in their classrooms, they're doing it at home from afar as well, using the technology and moving forward. We have our classrooms no longer are bordered by these 4 walls. So we have kids going to the sequoias in this picture. We have kids at Mount Rainier talking to these forest rangers, educating them on environmental conditions, flora and fauna. And the kids are actually interacting with them. They're not watching a film, they're having a conversation with those rangers in these far, far places because of the technology allows them to do that. We're doing digital storytelling in our classrooms. You know, it's hard to be a 21st century educated person and not know how to consume digital images in a critical way. So much of the messaging we get comes in digital photos, films, clips. And so we're not only teaching our kids to read and interpret those, we're teaching them to make them. They learn 8 different shots right away, then they use those 8 different camera shots and angles to tell a story. And the kids we're finding are learning so much more about digital storytelling, like just about storytelling and even writing through this process. What builds a story? How do you arc the conflict? How do you settle the conflict and find resolution? And what we're finding too is that they're having to write a ton. They write a lot because you do all the writing and storyboarding before they get the camera in their hands to go and tell their story. Very rarely do we have kids writing essays, begging the teacher, "Can I rewrite it one more time, please? Can I just have a few more minutes to rewrite it one more time?" Yeah, that's what happens in the digital storytelling. The kids want to get the story right because they know people are going to see it. They publish their story, they put it on the internet, they share it with their friends, family, and colleagues at school. And so it's becoming a really big part of our curriculum. Last year we had our film festival, first ever Tustin Unified School District Film Festival. About 300 people gathered at the Beckman Auditorium. We saw, I think it was about 33 short films made by students, grades 1, kinder actually, through 8th grade. And one of them I was so impressed with, some people are tired of hearing the story maybe, but a group of first graders, made a movie called The Magic Eraser. And so there was a pencil box. Everybody's familiar with that. You keep your pencils and erasers and crayons in it. And they used stop-gap, or what's the term? Stop motion, thank you. They used stop motion to make this movie. So they put these inanimate objects out and take a picture. Move them very slightly, take another picture. Move them very slightly, take another picture, so that it makes it look like they're moving when you actually show the film. So here's the pencil box, up comes a pencil. What does the pencil box do? It eats the pencil, that's its job. Up comes an eraser, up to the pencil box opens its mouth and eats the eraser. Here comes a protractor, coming to the pencil box, Pencil box, opens the mouth, grabs the pencil, or the protractor. Now here comes the eraser, little lonely eraser, eats the pencil box. You talk about a first grader getting the concept of storytelling and being able to build to a point and then having a plot twist and concluding the story. All using the stop motion film technology. Unbelievable what our kids are doing. We're also sharing what happens in classrooms, just like we can take field trips that are across the country and talk to astronauts and oceanographers around the world. We also can share with parents and others what's happening in classroom using Seesaw. So I just want to share with you, this is a kinder group. Remember, these are kindergartners, but they're going to tell what they learned today.
Hi, I'm London, and I'm Ryder, and we're learning about ducks. And at the park, I learned that ducks eat bread. I learned that some ducks live in farms, and some ducks live wildly out, in like the wilderness and stuff, and ponds and stuff in the park. That's what we learned about ducks today. Bye!
Imagine you're a working mom and dad, and you ask Johnny and Susie, what'd you do at school today? And what are they going to say? Nothing. But now, instead, you just log on. This is available to them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They can show family, friends, grandma, grandpa. Here's what the kids did on Thursday. And so they were using green screen technology. There was a green screen behind them that they were able to project their image onto after they had already given their speech so that it helped illuminate their slides. These are kindergartners. Unbelievable technology, and parents report a high degree of satisfaction with being able to see the work that their kids are doing. We've had a major shift in our teaching, as I mentioned. No longer do the kids come and watch adults work at the schools, but the kids, not only do they need to know stuff nowadays, they need to be able to do stuff. And so we've created these classrooms. I think almost every one of our schools, we might have one or two that we're still working on, to get a maker space. And these are places where kids can take things apart, put things back together. They can play with what makes things work. They also can get challenges, sort of like a digital challenge or a robotics challenge or a STEAM challenge, something that they have to challenge themselves to work together and solve a problem, a real problem, and not just doing worksheets from the back of the book. I want to point out that this picture on the right has, again, kindergartners. It's a little robot that you see on the mat, and the task is for the kids to program the robot to follow that changing line on the map. It's a logic and arithmetic problem. This is math and logic by kindergartners, and tell me if you think they're engaged. They don't do that when you just ask them, what's 3 plus 7? All right, this is different math. It really is engaging the students. Now, not only do they do the work, they understand what the application of the work is. And so we have teacher experts on each campus that help put these spaces together. I tell you, the PTAs and PTOs of Tustin Unified are awesome. So many of them have contributed to the materials that go into these spaces, as well, of course, our Tustin Public Schools Foundation. The teachers write grants for these materials, and Tustin Public Schools Foundation has bought a lot of them. Music. We talk a lot about STEAM, as we should. Technology is really, really important, but so is being human, right? There's really not much that touches humanity like music. Aldous Huxley said, next to silence, the thing that comes closest to explaining the inexplainable is music. And so every third, every fourth, every fifth grade student in Tustin Unified gets a weekly music lesson. Everything from instrumental music, choral music, music notation, music theory. You can see the notes that the little girl on the left is playing. That's her composition. She wrote that piece of music and is now going to perform it. And this is third, fourth, and fifth grade students. We also use our technology. We can't put 35 pianos into a classroom, but they all have iPads. And so we teach keyboarding on the iPads. We, again, use that for notation and music theory lessons, as well as just learning keyboarding, the fingering of a piano. And where's all that lead? Our kids are doing better academically on state standardized tests. This is just one cohort. We could look at other cohorts, but this is the first 3-year cohort we have in elementary school. And each color represents a year. So this is the kids who were in the 5th grade last year, and they started out, 56% of them in 3rd grade met or exceeded the standards. And then by 4th grade, a little few more, and by 5th grade, a few more yet. And as we follow them, the next time they take the test, they'll do it in the 8th grade, we'll expect to see those scores going up. And then again in the 11th grade. And so when you follow a cohort of kids and see that each year additional groups of kids are meeting the standards and exceeding the standards, it's really good news. Other data, our graduation rate, and if you were here a few years ago, this is our 7th one of these, breakfast. A few years ago, we chanted 98. We had a 98% graduation rate. And then what happens? The state changes the way you calculate graduation rate. And so now we have a 96% graduation rate, not because we are doing anything different, but they just changed the metric. But here's the really key thing is, we appreciate Orange County Department of Education who's sitting together. They travel as a pack, it's obvious. But Orange County Department of Education, led by Dr. Al Mahar as our county superintendent, does a phenomenal job. And every year in almost every category, Orange County performs within the top 3 counties in California. Now, there's about 58 counties in the state. To be in the top 3 is phenomenal. So Tustin Unified is in Orange County, which is one of the top 3 in the state, and Tustin Unified's graduation rate crushes our county average. Even though Tustin Unified's demographics look almost identical. Same percentage of EL kids, same percentage of kids living in poverty, yet in every performance measure, outdoing our cohort. Thriving academically means taking math. I'm glad that our school board was introduced first thing this morning. They make a lot of really difficult and courageous decisions. So one of the things that they did a few years ago is said, math is important. Our kids get to college and they don't all persist. So a lot of kids get accepted to college, but they may not stay in college. They may not stay through degree completion. And one of the things that contributes to that is falling in math. And so our board set a target to get more kids taking a 4th year of math in high school. And if you think about it, that means that now when I go to take the SAT exam, I'm in a math class my senior year. That means that my first year, maybe the summer before I start college, I take a math placement exam. It's only been a few months since I got out of a math class. Kids can meet their high school graduation math requirements in their sophomore or junior year. But you can see at Tustin Unified, we have almost 80% of our seniors enrolled in math. And they're not enrolled in basket-weaving math, trigonometry, calculus, statistics. The kids are taking very, very rigorous courses, and you're going to see that it pays off in a number of ways. Look at how many kids are taking the SAT. Unbelievable jump. The SAT is the college admissions exam. You only take it if you have a vision of going to a 4-year school. And we went from about 2/3 of our kids taking it 2 years ago. Now almost every senior challenges themselves by taking the SAT exam. And here's a demographic, or here's a piece of data that we had to check 3 times because I didn't believe it. We have more kids taking the SAT and more kids getting higher scores than ever before. It defies all logic, except when you believe in kids and give them a challenge and set a high bar for them, they reach it. 1060 is an important number in the SAT because that's the national mean. And a few years ago, 50% of our kids beat the national mean. That would make sense, right? Half the kids above, maybe half the kids below. And now all of a sudden, we're crushing the national mean. 67% of our kids scored higher than the average in the nation. Do you think it's related? Okay. Fumble. I look like SC. I want to get back there. You know, last thing I said to James before he came up here is, be nice. He said, yeah, right. 4 years of math. Look at that jump in 4 years of math. There's no coincidence that that leads to kids doing better on the SAT. Phenomenal. The school board didn't have to make that challenge. They didn't have to set that target for us, but that's the kind of school board we have. We're very, very lucky and appreciative of their leadership. So, other things thriving academically. It's no secret that we're into engineering, coding, technology, math, science. In Tustin Unified, the last 7 years, just incredible growth in those areas. And there's good reason for that. I want to talk about that for a minute because sometimes we get criticized for spending too much attention on STEAM from some quarters. Number one, during the Great Recession of 2008, if you were in a technology-related career, you were far less likely to get laid off in 2008. Remember when everybody was losing their jobs? Not if you were in technology. If you were in technology and you did lose your job, you were far more likely to get a new job in a short period of time than if you weren't in technology, science, math, engineering. And so, yeah, we think it's a good idea to help prepare kids for those kinds of careers. We also know that China graduates more engineering degrees each year than the United States gives in bachelor's degrees in general. So to be competitive in the world, yeah, we're going to need some more technologists. We don't apologize for that and helping prepare kids for that. But we also know that in the 21st century, everybody better know a little bit about it because it's how our world works. And so it's sort of like just becoming one of the humanities that we learn to be an educated American. We know English, math, science, coding. It's just part of what we know. And so we're really proud of the progress that we've made. We do an hour of code in December. It's a nationwide, even a worldwide phenomenon now, and our kids, just tremendous participation. Last year we created a course and a pilot for kids to learn how to code Arduino drones. That's the little flying helicopter that you can see up there. So in the 6th grade, every kid in that school learned how to code these drones. Every kid. Not just the kids who want to be engineers, not just the kids who are going to be good in math. Every kid learned how to code those drones, and now that pilot's going out to the rest of the district. And so they code it, and then the drone gets up and flies through a course in the classroom, or hits people. That's more exciting. You know, mistakes, you can learn a lot from mistakes. The more painful the mistake, the more you learn. But it's just terrific progress. We also have cyber patriot teams. These are groups of high school kids that can wreak havoc on our machines. And so we try to have them wreak havoc in a contained playground where they're trying to solve a problem in technology. It's sponsored by the federal government, and it's basically a hacking competition. And our kids do extremely well. We just keep reminding them to use their power for good. It'll be good for all of us if they can do that. Finally, I want to mention our robotics program, and I want to take a second. I mentioned the 2,500 employees in Tustin Unified earlier. And these great things that happen are because great employees, phenomenally prepared, very inspired themselves and inspirational to their students, do great work. One of them is Jeff Barr, who teaches here at Foothill High School. Jeff had, we had 8 teams that competed in the World Robotics Championships last May. And Jeff had multiple teams there. And one of the Foothill teams was the #1 robotics team in the United States of America. I think we ought to give them a hand. The year before, Hicks Canyon had that kind of an honor and took 2nd in the world to a school from China. Actually, I think Singapore. This year, we took 2nd in the world from Foothill High School to a school in Canada. Hey, those Canadians. And so we've got lots of work to do to continue to improve. And you know, whether we took 1st or 2nd, and the kids who didn't even get in places learned so much, not just about the coding, but about how you do that work, right? About offering your ideas, being open to other people's ideas, working hard, solving problems, understanding that hiccups aren't the end of life. Hiccups are just what happens, and then you figure out how to move forward from there. So we're really proud of those guys. I hope you keep Jeff in your thoughts and prayers. He and his family, his wife is having some medical issues, and Jeff's not at school right now. He's been away for a few weeks. Good man. Good. His wife is a wonderful woman who retired here from Foothill last year. And please keep them in mind. Talking about Foothill, I did want to say, I forgot to do it earlier, Dr. Mike Williams is in the house somewhere, principal of Foothill High. Thank you for your hospitality, man. Beckman High School, we've heard about this CubeSat, 4x4x4 cube. It's a satellite. It's sitting on a launch pad in New Zealand. They've created now, they're working on their 3rd CubeSat. The first one is sitting on the launch pad. These things do not get launched quickly. We finished like 2.5 years ago. It's still sitting on the launch pad. We can see it. We know where it is. But you know, when you don't pay top dollar for the space on the rocket, you don't always get launched very soon. So this is like a generic CubeSat. But our school, Beckman High School, put the CubeSat together with other schools from the Irvine Unified School District. So it's an Irvine Schools project. Beckman kids are responsible for the coding, which is basically the brains of the thing, so that when it launches out in space, it'll turn and rotate, open its solar array, and then start doing experiments and taking photos from space. Pretty advanced work for high school kids, and they're not enrolled in a class called CubeSat. This is what they do after school. And their teacher and advisors help them receive a small stipend for the work. Unbelievable success at Beckman High. Tustin High School, Ed Hernandez and Chris Kosovec took a group of girls that's called the Femineers. Remember how I said high-paying jobs, very stable jobs in technology, engineering, math, science? So much underrepresentation of women in those fields. And so one of our commitments in Tustin Unified is if a girl's not going to go into it, it's not going to be because she didn't have the option. All right, we're going to try and make it as inviting as possible for women to participate in science, technology, engineering, and math. So the Tustin High School Femineers built a car, entered it into the UCI Invitational that we're used to winning. Between Foothill and Tustin, I think we probably won it 4 years out of the last 6 or 7. And so the Femineers of Tustin High won their division last year. Congratulations to them. And once in a while we should talk about capitalism and free enterprise. And so we are so thankful that so many staff from the city are here and the Chamber of Commerce. This lemonade stand project was a project brought to us actually from the Chamber and the city. And so the whole idea is take a little lemonade stand that a lot of kids have done in summer times and try and use it as a lesson in how markets work. So the kids created teams, they put together a business plan, they figured out what their pricing should be, they figured out how to market their lemonade, and then on a single Saturday around Tustin, 4 of our schools put up these lemonade stands. And that's Winfoss, I've got a list of Winfoss, Myford, Thorman, and TMA. Let's give those schools a hand. lot of success, but it leads to some stress. So I want to talk about that for a second. Our school district, about 5 years ago, again, our board added a priority in the district. We had 5 goals in the district prior to that. Academic achievement, high quality employees, great facilities, financial stability. And so we added a 6th goal, and that is student wellness. And I'll tell you that all of that success that we had pictured up here comes at a price. Right? There's some stress in people's lives, and so we wanted to start addressing that. Stress for kids comes from a lot of places. We'll start at high school. You know, we have kids with, if you're not familiar, the GPA is 0 through 4, right? An F is worth 0 points, an A is worth 4. Unless it's an honors, AP, IB course, then that gets a weighted grade of 5. We have kids with over 4.0 GPAs who don't get accepted to UC schools. UCLA, UC Riverside, UC Davis, Cal, UC San Diego. And that's a shame. And so what's happened is the number of elite university seats have remained relatively stable. Harvard, Stanford, yeah, Carl, Stanford's elite. USC, UCLA. So there are no more seats in those universities than there were 15 years ago. But the number of kids who are qualifying for those seats has gone up dramatically. Just look at the number of kids in Tustin who are now outperforming the average SAT. And so there's incredible pressure on kids. Get the right, first of all, take the right classes. Get the good grades. Join the right sports team. Do the right volunteer work. Be president of your club. It's a lot of pressure on kids. Parents sometimes add pressure on kids. Teachers add pressure on kids. Coaches. Social media adds pressure on kids. If I'm a kid and I'm looking at my friend's social media, all I ever see is the good news. How does my real life measure up against their cream of the crop good news? And what's wrong with me? Bullying. So many aspects of this mental health issue that we're having. Those of us who were still working in schools back in 2007-8 when the Great Recession came, we could see the pressures on kids that families were experiencing. Dramatic increase in the need for intervention on student health. So that's when our board, about 5 years ago, added this wellness priority. We hired a handful, maybe 6 or so mental health specialists. And these are folks who will go out to the schools when a student is really struggling and in crisis. Like they cannot learn because they're having some sort of a big issue. And that group of 5 or 6 people are like miracle workers. They get in, they engage right away with the kid, they engage with the families. They'll provide them some counseling and support for a brief period of time until they can get them hooked up to community resources for longer-term care. But here's the question we start asking ourselves is, why do we only wait for the kids who are in crisis? Right? So maybe we should start doing more with every kid to get them armed and ready to handle life's disappointments, challenges, etc. And so this year we rolled out a 3-pronged approach to wellness and mental health in the school district. And some people we call SEL, social emotional learning. So it is, how do I self-regulate? When there's a disappointment or a frustration, how do I keep from throwing stuff against the wall and instead handle it in a mature way that's going to be productive? Right? So we start teaching now overtly those skills from kindergarten up. We call them the zones of regulation. We start talking to kids about listening with your whole body. Right? How does it feel? How does it hear? Lean in. We take kids a few minutes each morning and have them breathe with us. We'll have a morning circle so the kids can talk about their day, what they hope to improve or to achieve, and set their intention for positive learning in the morning with their schoolmates. All of these things are part of addressing that issue. You know, in 2007, during the 90s, actually, teen suicide was going down during the 90s. And then in about mid-2000s, it started to climb back up. It was around 2007, actually, right as the economy was falling apart. Coincidentally, that's the same time that the book 13 Reasons was published, that the movie came out about afterward. During that time, from 2007 to about 2014, teen suicide by women, our girls, doubled. Just think about it. Teen suicide among girls doubled in that short 8-year period. And suicide, self-harm, cutting, other things that kids do when they're stressed is not the only signal of kids under stress. So is violence. And we know that in these horrible school shootings, 90%, maybe more, Chief Solano could give us the details, about 90% of them are student on student. This is not us building fortresses of schools and keeping the bad guys out. The kids under stress are in the school. And so all of those are signs of how much stress there are in kids' lives. So, hence the social emotional learning. I want to do a simple thing with you. This is your gift this morning. Sit up in your chair, put your feet flat on the ground, put your hands in your lap or by your side, wherever you're comfortable. And we're going to just do a short little breathing activity. If you want to close your eyes, you can. I'm going to close mine while we do it. And we're just going to do some deep inhale and deep exhale. And if you've never done a breathing activity before, you might want to put your hand on your belly. If you're breathing right, your belly will expand. If you're breathing shallowly, you're going to just get the air in the upper lungs here and your belly won't move. So you might just put a hand on your tummy. Take a deep breath with me. In. Out. In. Out. One more, in. Out. That simple activity is used by Navy SEALs, it's used by executives, it's used by performers, just to get calm. And our teachers are using this now in our schools, and it's changing the way kids behave in classrooms. Discipline, already in the first month of school, discipline is way down. Cooperation among kids is way up. On-task behavior, so they can learn, is way up. And so we're really optimistic that we're on the right track. James mentioned going to Stanford. Challenge Success is a program that all 3 of our high schools have entered into. I talked about some of the stresses of high schools. There's some things that high schools do with every good intention that create unintended stress and difficulty on kids. So Beckman, Foothill, and Custom High Schools have put together a team of teachers, students, parents, and administrators, and have entered into this program to take a look at our own practices at our own high schools and figure out what is it in Tustin Unified that is creating that kind of pressure and stress, and what can we do about it in our own schools. Each school is going to do its own study, each school is going to come up with its own plan, but we are going to address the chronic stress that occurs at our high schools. And finally, in a teacher advisory group meeting, somebody said, yeah, the kids are under stress. True. We got to do this stuff. We think it's great. What about us? You know, if I'm a high school teacher, I see 180 kids a day. You know, if each kid asks one question, I've answered 180 questions today. Kids don't ask one question. They ask a lot more questions. And so, what about us? And so we trained 8 people in the contagious culture method last spring, and they rolled that training out already to 1,400 employees, how to intentionally show up for a positive impact. How do you take care of yourself, your physical self? How do you take care of your environment? How do you take care of your relationships so that you can show up into work, home, family situations and have a positively contagious impact instead of being maybe one of the people who helps drag things down. And so far, that's off to a great start as well. So we think all these things taken together will have some positive effect. I just want to share a minute that while we're doing all of this work, the tools, the finances for the work is starting to get pinched just a little bit. This chart has a lot of stuff going on, but just know that the green lines are our fixed cost escalation. Just to do the same work that we did last year costs us that much more this year. The blue line is our increased revenue from the state. If our fixed costs go up faster than our new income, we have to make budget cuts. Does that make sense? So when you hear us in the future maybe talking about some budget reductions, it's not that the state's reducing what they're sending us, it's that stuff costs more. And I know everybody's heard about the pensions. It's a thing. The struggle is real. Pensions in California are out of whack. And I'm part of the system that is benefiting from that, but about 5 years ago, the state governor and legislature got together and said, we can't do that anymore, let's make some changes. One of the changes is, let's have the school districts contribute more to the pension. So whereas we used to contribute out 8% of an employee's salary to the teacher pension, now we contribute 16%. And we're on our way to 20% in about 3 more years. So that number alone is about a $2.5 million additional cost to the district each year. And I just want to point out something else too. In the state teacher program, that is not a Tustin Unified School District retirement program. Our school board does not vote on the benefit, they don't vote on the qualifications, they don't vote on the contribution. It's a state-run pension program. But when the pension gets short, it's the districts that make up the shortfall. So if you hear about it, I just wanted you to be aware that it's real. In the meantime, we're really working on making sure that all that great work that we talked about, we have wonderful home for it to occur in. And so we're so pleased to have opened up an $8 million 12 classroom building at Heidemann last week. Congratulations to David. Where is David? David Miranda, Tony Soria, our whole business division, M&O, they did a terrific job of shepherding this project through, and it's a beautiful campus. One of the things that little girl Alexis said at that ribbon cutting, little Alexis, 5th grader, somebody asked, how does having this new classroom building make you feel? It makes me feel happy, it makes me feel safe, and it makes me feel cared for. What a wonderful thing for a 5th grader to make an observation of the impact of these facilities. And I want to point out that the money that helped us build this 12 classroom building at Heidemann Elementary School was set in motion 20 years ago. Right? It's good people in our community 20 years ago saying, hey, our facilities need some work. They organized a citizen committee, passed Measure G, then passed Measure L. That's the money that's doing this work. Just as a heads up, Measure G and L money is gone. We're putting together a new facilities committee that represents the best of the community now to take a look at what's the next step for Tustin Unified. What does the next generation of students need in the way of facilities? We also are so appreciative of our city partners, and not sure if you probably didn't know, but our councilmen were supposed to be in Washington, D.C. today, right? And Florence Storm, their flights got canceled like Saturday night. And where are they on Monday morning? Tustin Unified School District. And so we appreciate But really, when you take a look at this new building, this is the new Tustin Magnet Academy, or Legacy Magnet Academy, on the Legacy development. We have 40 acres over there for design. Architects have already submitted the designs to the state architect. A new building, 6 through 12. It'll be a magnet school focused on technology, innovation, design, and entrepreneurship. Themes that you've seen through this presentation. Because we think that's going to be a really hot topic in the next years to come. We appreciate the partnership with the city to create the space and the funding for this much needed building. Let's give the city partnership. Talking about budget, we, led by our school board again, we think a lot about how to take the resources we have and stretch them as far as we can. So we're doing things like putting in drought-resistant plantings around campuses. We've replaced yards and yards and yards of turf with synthetic turf. It takes much less water. You've seen, I'm sure, the solar arrays that are out. Some of you are parked under some solar arrays here at Foothill High School. Those are not just carports, right? Those are, in the next 25 years, going to save us about $25 million in electricity. We are finished with phase 1, 9 campuses received them. Phase 2 will build out similar projects at all the other sites. So we're doing all of these things because we know our budgets are tight, and so we're going to have to do everything we can to make each dollar go as far as possible. Because we don't want students just to thrive now, we also want them to thrive into the future. Speaking of which, Southern California Edison has not been the easiest group, or AT&T has not been the AT&T. Sorry, Edison, you're okay. We can get a sponsorship from AT&T. I'm sure AT&T provides excellent service. However, trying to expand your T10 line through AT&T took forever and was very, very expensive. And so our district, led by Robert Craven and Crystal Turner, followed up by David Smith and Grant Goodfin. I hope you enjoy this.
Education is changing, and so is the demand on instruction, facilities, and even network design. TUSD is leading this change and driving an innovative shift in the way students learn. In 2008, we had less than 1,500 desktop computers. By 2012, that number had grown to 5,000. That same year, the TUSD Connect initiative, focusing on rigorous standards and engaging instructional strategies supported by technology, was launched, expanding the number of connected devices to over 30,000, pushing the limits of our existing copper network. With our network at capacity, TUSD faced a challenge but seized it as an opportunity to continue innovating.
In 2018 and looking forward, we anticipate an explosive growth in the number of devices being added to our network. This includes security cameras, facility lighting, heating and cooling systems, electronic marquees, door locks, audio-video streaming devices like Apple TVs, and growth in the number of personal devices like cell phones, watches, and health trackers that require internet access. With our network already nearing capacity, we needed to expand.
We saw an opportunity to utilize a combination of federal and local funds to future-proof the district by expanding the network capabilities to meet the needs of tomorrow.
Before dark fiber, we relied on copper cables to provide internet. Faster internet meant more cables and more money. High bandwidth activities such as streaming video required scheduling and coordination to ensure success. With dark fiber, we can abandon the copper cable and harness the power of light. Using a prism effect, we can add more speed to more locations by dividing the light across the color spectrum. Now, every site in our district can utilize high bandwidth applications simultaneously without hiccup or interruption. The end result is a faster, more stable internet environment for our students, along with a controlled cost structure for our district.
Working with dark fiber solution providers and optical engineers, we were able to design an optical ring that covered all of our schools with robust high-speed connectivity. We made the network self-healing by placing specially designed hardware in key locations to protect against failure of any individual component or connection.
Our move to dark fiber is not only a fiscally sound decision, it advances our TUSD Connect initiative. Being in control of our own internet infrastructure assures that students in Tustin Unified will thrive today and in the future.
2018, we established key partnerships to not only make sure we were the first school district in California to exist solely on a dark fiber network, but established a framework for other districts to follow.
With the implementation of dark fiber, we can safely and securely increase the maximum number of devices on the network to over 1 million devices.
As computer science programs continue to grow and the demand for well-trained IT personnel in the workforce continues to skyrocket, the new fiber network is truly opening the doors to several new opportunities for kids, while simultaneously increasing the security capabilities of our staff.
One of the cool things is that video is produced in-house by one of our IT guys who also teaches film at Chapman University. We have some pretty talented folks in Tustin Unified. That concludes the story. I want to let you know that the trifecta in Tustin Unified is wonderful staff, supportive community, great partners. And we couldn't do it without the work of most of the people who are in this room. As a matter of fact, I do want to say that Gary and Patrick from Resilient are the ones that helped us put that fiber network together. So the people who matter are the ones who are in the room, and we appreciate that. If you're a Twitter user, Instagram, follow us. We are TUSD or hashtag TUSD Thrives. If you want to keep up on our progress, you know, the old Tustin newspaper is gone, or we merged with the Irvine Press, and so the best way to get information is just to stay on your social media. Lots of good news gets posted. I want to again thank the Tustin Public Schools Foundation, Sujata, Carol, the team, and great things ahead for Tustin Unified. Thanks so much.